Well, Rod, I really appreciate I appreciate you coming on the call. And
Yeah,
one of the
absolutely.
things one of the things that happened was, you know, we were really totally flattered and delighted to be in business with Rod and have him come over. He does so many things well. Just a total top shelf realtor with actually phenomenal marketing, right? Among many other things. And so Tristan and I were talking to him as we look for more and more content uh, for these top agent webinars. So let's get Rod, let's see if Rod will come on. And of course he said yes. Um, and that, as you can see from our promoting it, was before all of this happened. Okay. So we're
Yeah,
talking to Rod today about marketing. And then I think, geez, like the time's weird, right? I think it was Friday, maybe Thursday or Friday. I got on a Zoom with Rod to talk about other things and just say, hey, like, glad to be back in business with you. Really, let's map out a plan. Let's see how we can help each other. And this was after George Floyd had been murdered. This was after the awareness was starting to step up, but hadn't reached anything near what it is. And so we couldn't help ourselves but to spend, half or more of the time talking about that. Then when we already had this one scheduled, I figured what a great time to have an open discussion, and
absolutely.
I'll just go right to, right back to one of our panelists, one of our people sending us in the chat box that, being concerned about a casual tone on these issues. And I said, or even not discussing them. So I said, hey, let's get out. Look, we are not, here's the thing, and I'll talk for myself. I'm not an expert. Okay. Rod actually, has significant background in these issues as well as firsthand experience. But I'm not an expert, but I'm here for the conversation. I'm here with an open mind and an open heart, and and if we stumble a little, we stumble a little. That's all right. We're having the conversation. So what, Rod, is that an okay intro, and where do we go?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely okay intro. I think we just have to, we have to understand the climate that we're in. And, as professionals here working in this industry and everyone, I'm 43 years old, and I'm assuming a lot of individuals that are on this call are either between my age and your age or younger. So we all have witnessed and endured a lot of the things that we see happen with, whether it's Freddie Gray, whether it's George Floyd, Tamir Rice, Eric Brown. We can go on and on. There's a long list of names. These injustices have been going on for well over my time period of being on this earth. So I think the real thing we should be focusing on, not as much as finger pointing, but really talking about the solutions, right? What are the problems? I mean, everything that we're seeing is just like a disease. It's the symptoms of the disease. There's a virus in America that's been here since its conception. Inception. And, reality is that we all play a part in making this world a better place. And I think it all starts with each one of us as an individual being the change that we'd like to see in regards to how we deal with people, whether it's sexual orientation, gender, race, creed, all of that. I mean, this is what makes this country great. But at the same time, there is a small group of people in this world that has, for whatever reason, been able to control and have power for so long. And I think it affects all of our lives. So I'm open to having a healthy discussion. And we don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but, I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to what are the solutions and really honing in on that and putting all our efforts and energy into, making sure those solutions and the demands that we have to bring about change are met.
Well, Rod, I'll say this in terms of spending time on it. One of the things is that we're part of a community at Keller Williams, and we've always touted our culture, and as a leader in this organization, I want to make sure that we're walking the talk. I believe that having the conversation is an incredibly important step. And,
Absolutely.
and, you know, what is said, and let people voice, anything from the most intelligent to less so, viewpoints, so that we can have a free conversation and at least have a voice. Certainly as a leader in the company, I'm going to stand for the absolute right and ability to speak out, support it 100%, think we should do it, because so many of us have the goodness in our heart, but if we're not saying it, that's not very helpful.
Absolutely.
So I mean, tell us first of all, you're a board member on the People's Alliance for Justice. Tell us about that. Tell us about if you don't mind, just give us a little background on, you didn't just get involved in this week.
Yeah.
You've been involved. So what
Yeah.
caused you to do that?
Well, the People's Alliance for Justice was founded almost a year and a half ago by Reverend Shane Harris, who was actually with the National Action Network under Al Sharpton, where he was mentored and groomed. And if you look at Shane's background, Shane grew up as a foster child. He lost both his parents very young, and he was impacted. He had some unfortunate situations growing up, but one of the things about Shane is he had a calling to really help people who were less fortunate, in regards to, racial inequalities or injustices. And that became his passion. So a year and a half ago, he founded the People's Alliance for Justice. I've been friends with Shane in about 4 years. And, my background coming from the South, growing up in Houston, I encountered a lot of racial injustice growing up. I mean, it was pretty much a very strong part of my life and my childhood that impacted me. And then, a part of joining Shane was, a lot of my influences that I experienced that I wanted to see change brought about, in this world, not just for people of color, but, for people in general, for us all having equal rights and being treated fairly in this world, and being equally allowed to have the opportunity for pursuit of happiness without someone else having a negative impact on that. So my efforts have really been behind the scenes, whether it be from a financial standpoint or just providing support and resources and pulling resources, because in real life, I'm a great connector. I think people who know me, they know that. I'm not someone that needs to be in the spotlight. And, my whole passion and drive, with the foundation is really helping bring in resources to the foundation, whether that's monetary resources. As when you're starting a nonprofit, it takes resources, especially for the battles and fights that we have currently and ahead of us. So more or less, I'm on the board. Shane and I have tackled various issues from the homeless to foster care, obviously to racial inequalities. He was on the Alfred Alongro case, the gentleman that was shot and killed down in San Diego. He led the way in the civil suit, which the family actually won. Stephon Clark, who was killed up in Sacramento, he led the way with that family and represented them, and also was on the case that led towards a civil suit being settled with the city. So he's done an immense body of work in this space at a very young age. Shane is only 28 years old, and I actually met Shane when he was 23. So we've developed a relationship over the years. And our common focus is actually bringing about change, really going at the laws and the policies that are in place that have been set up to bring disparity and disenfranchisement to people of color. And our goal is to eradicate these laws and really put pressure on public officials, DAs, which we find that there's a lot of corruption when it comes to the justice system, and we're seeing that, and that's always been the case since the beginning of what we call our justice system policing here in America. We can go back as far as the 1900s, and this stuff still remains to be true, that African Americans and people of color are treated unjustly in this country. So our passion has been to pick up where our former leaders like Dr. King and Malcolm X have left off. I mean, of course, we are very vigilant in our approach. We do not practice violence. We really focus on addressing the real issues and going at the laws and engaging the individuals who want to bring about change that are in political positions or positions of power. So that's been our mission overall, and we still have a lot of initiatives that are on our table that deal with economics. I think part of the issue that we face in the Black community is we've been denied an opportunity to access to wealth in this country. It's just a disadvantage across the board, and it has to be addressed. And I think that's something that people have turned the other cheek on and have ignored, because it's easy to be on the other side and benefit from all the luxuries that come from, what has been caused by our system, where, people are afraid to give up those luxuries or to open their mouths and speak upon it because it doesn't impact them, directly. Yeah, you may have friends or know people that look like me or have relationships with people that look like me, but at the end of the day, the things that we deal with, the things we have to see, waking up, my kids have to look at a TV and see a Black man murdered in broad daylight. How do I explain that to my daughters? How do I explain to them that you just have to turn the other cheek and live in a world where that's acceptable? That's not acceptable to me. And so Shane and I's mission is to bring that change about to where my grandkids don't have to wake up seeing a Black man or woman or any person of that matter, whether they're white or Black, being killed in broad daylight in America or anywhere in the world for that matter.
Rod,
Tristan.
what are some of the things that you guys are actually doing to help propel this movement? Because from the way that I see it, growing up Mexican, we get our own racial problems too, right?
Absolutely.
And I don't think a lot of people that come from a different part of the world or even the United States just don't understand that this isn't just a political issue where we can put laws in place and have them change and everything will be fine. It's much deeper than that. What are some of the things that you guys are doing to help with that?
Well, aside from the laws, we really have been, what I can speak on is we've really been focusing a lot lately is there's a lot of corruption going on here. Let's make that clear. And we've been focusing behind the scene to start working towards having certain people that are sitting in seats that are making this decision removed, bringing the corruption to light that is taking place. And then working, in particular, Gavin Newsom. I mean, he's been a strong advocate for us. I can't speak on the things we've been meeting with thus far and talking with him about, but he's going to play a major role, hopefully, from what discussions we've had with him going forward and helping us remove some of these individuals like DAs, city council members, people that are basically being paid off to turn the other cheek. Or, you talk about police unions, the laws that they have in place where, I think one of the biggest things when we can really work to have the laws changed, as opposed to for taxpayers having to pay for the civil suits that are being settled from police officers killing unarmed citizens in this country, to where that money is coming out of the police pensions. I think we may see a direct change as far as how policing is taking place. So those are some of the things we're actually focusing on and talking on. The other thing is raising the money for support. It takes money, unfortunately, to be able to work towards getting things done and people move. So we've been meeting with specific individuals that are in positions of power that are tired of seeing what we've recently witnessed with George Floyd and many others, that they're willing to give us the financial backing in the sports professional world as well as the business world. So we've really been focusing heavily on, from an economic standpoint, and raising money for us to be able to, fight against fight against these policies and work to bring about change in the space of who's sitting in specific seats at the DA's office, city council members that are not, doing their jobs as far as holding officers accountable, from an economic standpoint, which we can get into talking about real estate. I mean, we can go back, we can talk about redlining, a lot of the things that are taking place, gentrification that are taking place, where bribes are being, facilitated, where individuals are given opportunity to purchase property or illegally, do transactions to keep us at a disadvantage there. I mean, the list is long. These are a lot of the things that we're working to tackle. But as I said, it takes money and economics to be able to make this change. The other thing we're doing is we're rolling out a economics financial literacy program where we're working to educate people in the communities where we serve, and people that look like us that are less fortunate, to educate them. We're talking to financial members in several banking institutions like Bank of America and Chase to bring about programs that can help people of color not just purchase property, but to maintain and grow their wealth through real estate. So those are various things that we're now working on since we founded the Peaceful Alliance of Justice, that I'm comfortable speaking on this at this point. There are other things that we're working on that I don't want to disclose, because it's important that we keep those things behind closed doors until they're solidified and we're able to bring them out to the public.
Yeah, I'm hearing like amazing stuff. I mean, I'm glad people are asking me if it's recorded. I'm glad it's recorded so I can go back and catch some more notes on it. You know, for example, I'd be delighted. We can talk about it later to, you know, you and I could work on a program on wealth building for teaching wealth literacy and wealth building to underprivileged kids that don't have, like, you know, all the way back to Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. They don't have a rich dad. So,
Absolutely.
you know, we could offer that. I would love to be.
Well, you don't know yet. You're gonna get tapped on. It's one of the reasons why I joined. So it's on my list.
Okay. Well,
your number's getting called.
okay. Well, that will be a welcome call for sure. And just right in the middle of all the stuff that you were saying, all the different amazing things you're talking about. You know, I follow the money, you know, and I got to tell you, when you said if you could get the, you know, so what happens is these people file civil suits, which is a good thing we have that. It's a little bit a lot too late, you know, the civil suits for sure. Okay. And then when you add to it, I hadn't thought of it until you said it. Then when you add to the fact that, like, when you're a police officer and you're doing something bad and family gets a civil suit, that is paid by the city. Mm-hmm. That's paid by the taxpayers. That's so right. That's not a very good disincentive. Now, if you just shifted that to the police pension, right? Now suddenly, you know, in the same way that you have a whole group of people that are in a way incentivized to look the other way. Now you're like, hey, wait a minute. We got this guy. He's out there, you know, a cowboy out there. Let's get him off the streets because we don't want to risk our pension. Boy, that one change alone. I mean, I think it would be tough to get that change, but that one change alone would wake a lot of people up.
Absolutely, I agree. And it would be tough to get that change, but I think, Paul, as you know, when you have the right people backing you and there's money behind it as well, that change can can take place. I think one of the things people should also look at, look at the mayor's budget this year, upcoming for this year and next year. A large majority of the budget is going towards the LAPD Police Department and a lot of other things that are important, especially when you talk about socioeconomics and the disparity that's taking place in the Black and brown community of Latinos and African Americans. There is no money being funded or put in any form of fashion in towards helping rebuild our communities that have been decimated by disenfranchising us as people, denying us access to wealth. But yet we see what's happening and what's taking place with local law enforcement in society. Primarily, we can go back to the history of LAPD when it comes to Black and brown people in this city alone. And that the history of that is not good between the relationship and obviously how we've been profiled and targeted. Look at the large number of mass incarceration. My father served over 10 years in prison for a drug case. People shouldn't be going to jail for non-violent crimes for over a decade in this country. I just don't agree with that. And I lost my father at a very early age, but had a profound impact on me. So when we look at these things and we, like you said, follow the money, there's a lot of corruption that's going on right now. And these things have to change. In order for those things to change, it's going to take people with power and with money to step up and say something. It can't just be people rioting in the streets and protesting. That gets nothing done. We've seen that for generations and generations. I've watched that with my own eyes. We need people with money and power to step up and walk to the forefront and say, you people are not doing your job. And the way this money is being used, it's not doing anything to help the situation. And we have to remove these individuals and put people in those seats that are not going to be easily bribed or taking money under the table to do illegal things that are going to further keep the movement or the disadvantage for Black and brown people in their communities.
So what can people listening in do? What are some actionable things that you can say, hey, just do this instead of some of the things that people are thinking they can do that mean nothing?
I think do your research and then start with where you have access and relationships to. If you got access and relationships to city officials or people that are in power that really think and believe that they want to see things brought about, voice your opinion, pick up the phone, make the call to your local city officials, your mayors, even your governor. if you have access to relationships. And even if you don't be afraid to pick up the phone. But as I stated, do your research, follow the money, as Paul said, look at the numbers. I mean, everything's right here in our faces. I mean, it's not like this stuff has just started happening overnight. As I said, what we're seeing are the symptoms of the disease, the virus that America has been carried for over hundreds of years. So I think the first thing you do is you do your research, and then you start reaching out to, you know, individuals that you have access to and demand change. And don't just think that this is going to happen in the next 3 to 4 weeks or 3 to 4 months. You got to be committed to this. I've been committed to this for my entire life. This isn't something that's going to happen overnight. But as I said, if it's important, I mean, I see people being outraged over somebody putting their foot on a dog's neck more than they are of a black human being or a brown human being. Okay? So take that same level of energy that you would take in seeing somebody assault a dog that you would when it comes to a human being, and channel that into making sure the people that you have access to understand how important this is. And do not let up until you begin to see the change.
Dude, I love that. I love the passion. Thank you.
You know, I credit
you mentioned the organization People's Alliance Foundation. Is there
it's called the People's Alliance for Justice.
For Justice.
Yes, we need support. You know, we need, you know, and I'm asking boldly on the behalf of Reverend Shane Harris. My role is simply to help bring in resources. And if those resources can be just simply people on the ground providing support and helping us pull together. And, you know, when we can have a separate conversation on that, you can feel free to reach out to us at the People's Alliance for Justice. But we need resources, whether that's money donated, that's volunteers. You know, if you have constituents that are in positions that are sitting in city council, those individuals that we can have face-to-face meetings with so that we can share our initiatives and what we're working to accomplish with, all of those things that are very important to us.
Mm-hmm. All right, I just put up the link there. I found it online.
And one of the things, you know, in researching it, there is a lot you can do. People don't think that, you know, writing a letter to your local politicians, people don't think that makes a difference. It does make a difference.
It does.
It doesn't have to be. It's like we talk about when we talk about marketing. You know, it doesn't have to be the perfect letter. You don't. You know, because one of the things they do is, having worked in politics, is one of the things they do is they'll simply count the letters. They might even read the letters, right? But they'll be like, oh, hey, Senator, we just got another 400 letters today, you know, all voicing their concern for, you know. So if you just get out a piece of paper and go, hey, I'm really worried about this, I demand that you do something, or we're not going to vote for you next time.
Exactly.
You know, you don't have to write a beautiful thing, because they've got a staffer that opens that up and they put it, oh, that's the stack A.
That's right.
Stack B.
That's right.
And those politicians listen to that because they want to know what their constituents are thinking. And you know, we hear so much about, you know, just instead of doing the right thing, politicians figuring out, you know, they do the poll first, right? Oh, hey, you know, how's this going to help me? How's this going to hurt me? This is a clear-cut one. Send some letters. That's a good one. There are a lot of places to donate.
Email.
Email. That's right. Just send an email. Right, because they're counting emails like they're counting the letters. That's right. Yeah.
And keep in mind, they work for us. At the end of the day, they work for us. And if they want to hold those seats that are coming up, that's the other thing. We have to get out and vote. You know, if we know these individuals have a proven track record of not doing their job, or there's evidence of corruption there, we got to remove those people from those seats. It's that simple, you know, and bring in individuals that are going to get the initiatives done that we are paying them to do. Because keep in mind, they're being paid by tax dollars, period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we one thing, and this is what happens when you're in a you know, you're in a franchise business. So we've got multiple owners, franchise owners. I can safely say that every single one of our franchise owners is a good person, has a lot of empathy, and wants to get involved in this situation. There's no question. And we still have a, you know, because it's different locations, different we still have sort of a could get a disparity of messaging and that sort of thing. And that's why we do this on a regional level. I had a team leader, honestly, that gave me the idea to do this, right? I had a team leader a couple days ago. They have a lot of Black Americans in their office, and he just said, hey, let's get them all on the phone. Let's talk about it. Let's say we care. And then we're like, oh, well, hey, let's just invite the whole office on. And then they had this phenomenal, very open conversation, where I learned things that, and I feel like, oh, I'm paying attention and I care. And I have a 16-year-old daughter, and one of the agents said, hey, Paul, I know you have a 16-year-old daughter. How about this? I have a 16-year-old son, and at 16, he is 6 feet tall. Mm-hmm. Black mom telling me, and she said, well, now we've got coronavirus, right? This is before any of this, right? I mean, she's telling me a couple of days ago, she's talking about from just before any of this happened. She goes, okay, so now I have a 16-year-old son who's Black. We've got coronavirus. Everybody's got to wear a mask. I'm going around going like, okay, so I'm going to put a mask on my 6 foot tall Black son, and she's scared to death. And that never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
Wow, I totally get that. And at the same time, never crossed my mind. It's like these things, like I'm paying attention, and it's still walking in the footsteps of somebody else, no matter how empathetic you intend to be or you are, you still miss a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And I will say this, I think there are a lot of people out there that agree with everyone that, everything that's been going on is terrible, and they don't support it. However, I think people are afraid and they're fearful and they just don't understand what to do. But I will say this, whenever you see unity and you see people come together in numbers and mass, that gives more confidence. And I think when one person sees someone step up and, take the initiative, everyone else follows suit. And that's why I say it's important for people in leadership, just as you, Paul, and, I thank you for organizing this call. And I know people also here to want to hear about, really the topic. So I definitely want to get into that. But I know that, when we can pull together and we unify numbers and we all voice our opinions on how this incident with George Lord and everyone else that we've seen, unfortunately, tragically die at the hands of law enforcement and the injustice that takes place within our society, when we voice how that impacts us as individuals and what we see regardless of our colors and where we're from, and to say that we demand change, then that's when we really that's when we can start seeing things come about and change. So I know that there are a lot of people, I've gotten calls, texts, and emails from so many individuals. I think it's just really us now channeling that energy and staying consistent with it. And I know that a lot of people are tired of seeing this and experiencing it. So I don't have this perspective that every white person is a bad person. I know that from a fact that that's not the case. And just like every Black person or Latino person or Asian person is a bad person. But I think that we all have to hold each other accountable in moments like this and demand that those bad apples that are out there, regardless of whether they're law enforcement, city officials, mayors, et cetera, we have to hold these people accountable and bring them to the table and demand those changes and remove them from their positions and do away with these laws and policies that enable them to get away with what they're doing currently right now in society.
Yeah, it's and I'm watching the chat box, and we've got so many great comments. And one of the things we can do, I would love to use this, is such a timely topic. I would love to use this time to talk about this, and then we'll just get you right back on to talk about marketing. It's too important.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
This is too it's too important. This is too timely of a thing, and we've got a great resource in you, which we're so grateful for. Like I just read in the chat box, we were talking about, write an email your senator, and somebody wrote in the chat box, and I actually agree with them, even though I brought it up. Oh, hey, we've been emailing these people. It doesn't help. So I would say two things to that. And number one is, I would never suggest that you send an email and forget about it, right? I'm talking about a list of different things to do. And if you see these people, I'm going to tell you firsthand, from having been in Washington, D.C. and the Department of Justice and interacting with these senators or whatever, and they get in front of the microphone, and they can be bullies in front of the microphone, okay? And when their little staffer, they put the most junior staffer on the whole team to read what they call constituent mail, okay?
Yep.
So you got a little staffer, been on the job for 6 months, and they go, Senator, we got 3,000 letters, and or that's back in the day, right? But it would be emails, so, oh, hey, Senator, we got 3,000 emails, just yesterday on this issue. That senator is scared to death. I promise you, they can be a bully with the microphone when the little staffer whispers that. I'm not saying that's the answer. It is not the answer, but it does make a difference. It really does.
Yeah, and I think in life, just like I've taken my life approach to anything that I want, you have to be consistent and follow through with it. And I give you a case in point. Josh, one of the things I respect about him and the relationship that landed me to come here was that I respected his consistency. Those things that resonated with me, and his commitment and not trying to convince me, but showing where the value was to help me in my career to further pursue my goals and accomplish it. So I think you have to take that approach, even if it means pulling up on these people. We use the term pull up where I come from, where you literally pull up to where they work in mass numbers and say, you know what, we're not going anywhere until you listen to what we have to say and you take action. And if you don't, here are the consequences, meaning we're going to lay out the consequences, the things and the steps that we're going to take, that we're going to make your life a living hell until you either get out of this position, this seat, or we remove you. And that's the approach we have to take. And I think it's too easy for all of us to go back to our comfortable lives. And that's what makes America what it is. That's why this machine can function the way it does, because we have all these luxuries and this comfort around us that everyone's afraid to give up.
Yeah. And I always say, like, how can you vote for an administration that, I want to keep politically neutral, but how can you vote for someone that's so tone deaf on all this sort of thing? And it is amazing how people vote with their pocketbooks.
Absolutely.
And this is the fear that people instill in us, like, as if we have somebody who cares about people, suddenly our economy is going to go terrible. We've had people in power that cared about everybody, and our economy did not go to heck in a handbasket. In fact, the economic disruption that's caused by letting this, it's like an ounce of prevention, right? A pound of cure. Getting ahead of this stuff will be, it's part of the American dream, so that's what we're selling.
Absolutely. I agree with you there. I think, the world was designed to be, for us to live in peace. Mm-hmm. We're capable of living in society, regardless of what you believe, where you're from, what you look like, to live in peace. I believe it's a small group of people that are controlling our society based upon economics and power and the perpetual message of fear that our media puts out. And I think that as we work to eradicate those things, there's a utopia lifestyle ahead for us. And we have to believe in that. And the only way that can happen is if we all band together and channel our energy in the right places. So, we have to keep in mind, this world just wasn't here just for us. Our kids have to live in this world. Our kids' kids have to live in this world. So you have to ask yourself, what role and what responsibility do I want to play in doing my part in making sure that I'm going to leave this place better than what I found it or what I was born into. And we're all capable of that if you want to believe it. If you don't, and you just want to tuck your head and stick your head under a rock, that's your choice. But I believe that we're capable of creating a much better world than what we're currently living in right now. And it doesn't have to involve capitalism and money and us running over each other just to so-called say that we have wealth or a certain type of ambition lifestyle. We can have a quality of life here without us being a meaning. When I say us as a society as a whole, mistreating one another or taking advantage of each other for what? Money? I mean, come on. Let's really think about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm sending AJ a photo, and maybe he can get this photo up on the. I'm sure he can get it up on the screen. He'll share it. AJ, when you get that, screen shoot and share that. One of the things that I've been doing is I've been getting out there. People advise you not to do it. I'm not going out after curfew if I can help it, but before curfew, I'm driving out to all the market centers. I'm just driving around, even if I'm not doing anything. I'm taking a look, see what's going on. with my own eyes. And I'll say this to you. You know, I get affected by stuff, and I'm not a person that like, I don't go to scary movies because I don't want to be scared in my off time. You know, it's like I got enough hassle. I won't let my daughter take me to a scary movie. You know, my daughter my daughter encouraged me to watch the actual video, you know, and I knew what happened, and I'm outraged by what happened. And watching that video, like, dude, it broke my heart. You know, like real-time video, it broke my heart.
You know what's deeper than that, dude? Which I see where you're getting at, but I want to show a differentiation. My daughter is dark skinned because I married an Indian lady. All right. And she's dark skinned and my son is light skinned. It's always been an issue, right? Cool. She watched that video and she was freaking out. She's like, people are going to treat me like that based on my skin color. Right. And so how do you think that makes me feel as a dad? Right. Right. And I think, what does this come down to when the leadership of the world that we live in is completely blind to reality, right? Whether or not you want to bring that up, because that's real.
Yeah.
The duties that we have as individuals, for some people, they've gotten lost and people are like, well, what do I do? What do I do? Look, go back to the duty of you having the responsibility of taking care of Rod, taking care of Paul, taking care of everybody here, for the rights that we have as individuals to live free, right? Yes. What does that look like? And people, all of a sudden, they're like, well, they're just living because they're comfortable. We're comfortable as a nation. For the most part, we're just comfortable. And we're like, you know what? It doesn't affect me, so fuck it. It doesn't affect me. Yeah. And what happens then? Your standards get lowered. Your standards get lowered, and what happens is you put people in power that shouldn't be in power because you did shit in the first place. And so if you want to do something about it, you've got to level up your standards and say, what do I stand for as a human being? So when my daughter said that, I'm like, whoa, what do I stand for? Will I allow this to happen to the next generation? What do I need to do now to step it up? Because apparently I've been living in kind of like a different world, right? So
it's good to recognize and admit that, you know, because I talk about it all the time. You know, we are a product of the environment we live in, for sure. I mean, well, we are, and also our reality is colored by the environment we live in, and it's amazing. I call it the bubble, the LA bubble. You know, by the way, people that don't like our views a lot will call it the LA bubble also. You know, but it goes all the way back to business. You know, gay business partner of mine back when they were working on whatever proposition it was to legalize gay marriage, and there was all this opposition to it. But hey, everywhere in my neighborhood, the only signs I'm seeing are like, you know, for gay marriage. And then my friend is getting mobilized. And I just said to him, hey, what's the big deal? Why are you getting mobilized? Who thinks this is a bad idea? And he looked at me, he was like, have you driven between here and, like, yeah, LA and San Francisco? Yeah, but everywhere else, right? And I'm like, wow, that's the first time I realized we're living in a different world. And we've got to open our eyes and be leaders. You know, this is what I talk about on this call every week. A lot of times it's just about our business. You know, how can we improve our business when we're not allowed to go in the office? And my answer to that was, be a leader in your community. Okay. Just get out there, be a source of information, you know, and be a leader. Well, one thing that we can do, there's a great book, 360-Degree Leadership. It's like, lead from where you are. There's always going to be, there's always going to be a boss. Yeah. If you're CEO of a Fortune 500 company, there's still the stockholders and the chairman of the board. You always have to answer to somebody in most cases, right? Yep. And so lead from the middle and lead to the people that are equal to you and lead to the people that are above you. You can lead by example, and certainly lead to the people that are working for you and kids, and show people that there's no tolerance for this.
Absolutely. Agreed.
But I don't think, Paul, I think that there's a challenge. And Rod, tell me what you think here. When a lot of people are attempting to lead, they don't know what they stand for in the first place. So you look at, I'm going to just refer back to the Constitution and to just religion in general. When you're part of a religion, you have a code, you have the 10 Commandments. When you're part of a country, typically you know what the Constitution is, right? And you have an outline of what you stand for. As a human, we sometimes forget what we stand for because we've never taken the time to think, well, what are my duties? What do I stand for as a human, right? And we just let life go, and we really don't stand up for when we need to stand up for things that really matter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it goes down to those core convictions and understanding who you are as a person. My coach used to tell me when we were playing, you know, he used to use the term cut the strings, right? You know, what are the things that are playing you? What are the things? Are you in control, or what's in control? You know, and those things that are in control, really, you know, you have to, you know, do you understand the value system behind those things? Do you truly believe in those things? What is it? Why are you allowing those things to influence you, to control your thoughts and your actions? So I think what we have to do is, just like my coach said, we got to cut the strings. If those things that are controlling, manipulating your mind, your actions, or even dulling you to things that ordinarily, if you step back and really took the time to say, who am I as a person, understanding what your core beliefs are, and really trying to say at the end of the day, you know, what do I believe? What do I want to see change? What are the things I want to see, you know, take place during my period of time while I'm here in life? You know, it's really just taking back control. And I think that's a hard thing to do for a lot of people, because if you're conditioned and brought up under, whether it's religion, trust me, I came from the South. There was Christianity, Baptist, you know, my mom was Jehovah's Witness. I had all these things religious wise that were constantly being preached at me. But then I would say that these things don't line up, you know, regardless of what you believe or not. I'm like, there's certain things that just don't line up. So I had to really dig deep within myself as a human being and learn to know who I am and make my decisions based upon my value system and what I believed is right and wrong. And that's the thing. Everybody's got a difference in what they think is right. But at the end of the day, you know, when it comes to humanity, and this is just my thought, I think we all share the right to pursuit of happiness in this lifetime, regardless of where you are. No one individual gets to dictate or decide who gets to have that or not. And I believe that's really what it comes down to, is you making that decision to say that I want to have a certain quality of life, and anybody else around me has that right, and no one has the right to disrupt that. And if there are people that are out there that are trying to do that, just focusing on that simple thing to say, you know what, you don't have the right to do that. You don't have the right to write these laws to interfere with that. You don't have the right to dictate or decide how these people should live. And we're going to work to make sure that, you know, those things are no longer in place or acceptable in our society. That's where real change starts to take place. Empathy, truly caring about other people, truly caring and it being a concern where, if George Floyd was a white man or a Mexican, I still would be deeply moved by that. Yeah. I would still be just as pissed. But, you know, it hurts more. Why? Because as a black man, I've watched it ever since my conception of coming into this world. I've had to see these things take place in my community, even the people that I love. So at the end of the day, I think it just goes back to humanity. We as humans, we really have to take that step back and say, what are the things that are controlling us? And do these things truly make sense? And why am I allowing these things to control me? If that is the case, and if it isn't, then that's great. You do your part. As Paul said, you figure out how you could be leaders in your community. I always say this, and I say this to my kids that I've coached and that I've trained: be the change that you want to see in the world. Start with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Rod, what do you think about well, you start out with the peaceful protest, which everyone agrees with. I think everyone on this call agrees. Yeah. And then it gets crazy. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then there's the looting and the violence that ensues and all of this mayhem. How does that fit into this picture?
When you say this picture, meaning what's going on right now?
Yeah, that's right.
What's my perspective on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I talked about this, and even Reverend Shane, he made a comment, and we've been speaking to the media directly about this. You know, it's unfortunate because we feel like the agenda that I think Black Lives Matter movement or just Black people in general has been hijacked. And, you know, when you look at these individuals that are out here vandalizing and looting, that's not what we stand for. If you go back and look at the history of indigenous people and Black people, we've always been a race of peace, okay? We've never been a violent group or organization. Have we tried to protect ourselves? Absolutely. And everybody has the right to protect themselves. But with that said, when you look at what's going on the streets today, that's a separate agenda. And I think that now media is now focusing and trying to get away from the George Floyd, you know, issue and what's really going on there, and focusing all the attention on the businesses that are being looted and obviously the people that are being affected by it. And listen, that's a bad thing. But I go back to saying this. Again, these are the symptoms that America has caused from racism, from, you know, from basically the treatment and the way people have been treated that are in positions that are of what consider are less. And it's wrong. And at the end of the day, the focus has now been shifted on that. And these individuals that are out there of some particular group, we have to question, where did these people come from? How did they mobilize so quickly to where they have spray paint, they have spray cans, they're going around with specific targeting? The other question is, you have to also ask, why did the city of LA allow these individuals to come into Melrose, into Beverly Hills? And I will say this, and I think anyone on this with half a brain, I don't mean as an insult, but I mean anyone with a brain, and I say half a brain, would even know that Black people would not be allowed to march into Beverly Hills or Melrose and destroy anything. That's not going to happen. So why were these individuals allowed into Melrose and into Beverly Hills and to destroy these businesses? They have choppers in the sky. They have intelligence that speaks on microphones to let them know that these individuals are coming there en route. They could have barricaded and blocked off all of those areas and protected them and protected those businesses. That's what you pay your tax dollars for. Why is this big budget going to the LAPD and they can't even do a simple job like that to protect those businesses? Those things have to be questioned. I don't have the answers, but I'm saying we should be asking our city officials those questions. So there's an agenda here, and we have to ask, where is this coming from and why these things are happening? And me personally, you know, I can go on about a number of things because we still don't have all the facts, but we're definitely digging into them to find out who's funding these groups, where they come from, and what's the purpose behind it. Because trust me, they didn't just come out of nowhere. And with that being said, if that was the case, where were these kids when Alfred Alungro, Stephon Clark, you know, Michael Brown, where were all these individuals then at that particular point in time if they're so concerned about the Black Lives Matter movement? Mm-hmm. They weren't present. But now at a particular time when we've got an election coming up here in November, mm-hmm. we've got a lot of chaos going on in our office between Democrats and Republicans. And let's be real, these kids, the majority of them that are running around on skateboards in black, they all wearing the same attire. That's uniform. That's code. Like, we can't see that with our eyes, what's going on in front of us. There is an agenda taking place right now. We have to ask and figure out why these things are happening and where these people are coming from and who the hell is funding them. Because they're not out there for free. Somebody paid them to be out there to do this.
Mm-hmm. And even I mean, believe that or not, and I got to tell you, when I was living in Washington, D.C., working across the street from the White House, and just to see the motorcade, the presidential motorcade, first of all, they block all the streets miles in advance of where that car is going to go. Then they have so much police and armor and, you know, helicopters and
absolutely,
you know, right, to think that they're burning anything in front of the White House. I mean,
it's crazy.
I mean, it's like, I mean, if that's not like, I know they could stop that.
Absolutely. They have to be questioned. I was highly upset when I saw these things because I said, you know what, none of these people who own these businesses deserve it. You know, granted, people say they have insurance, et cetera, but what about the ones that may have limited insurance, that the insurance isn't going to cover that, right? What about the people whose businesses are now going to close and never going to reopen? You pay city officials and tax dollars that go to LAPD, and something like that, which they've had riots multiple times in this city. So they understand, they have a task force specifically trained on how to handle these types of situations and crowds. I witnessed cops watching individuals loot businesses. Mm-hmm. and run in and out with merchandise. And they stood and watched.
Yeah.
I mean, this all could have been prevented. And let's start by saying this. All of the protests that Black Lives Matter movement or just people in color, white, brown, yellow, it doesn't matter, because there was people of all ethnicity out there with a peaceful protest, and yet LAPD engaged them with violence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing I want to bring up. Black people are even being denied the ability to protest in peace in this country. We had white men storm the Capitol, and I forgot which Capitol it was.
That's right.
With AK-47 and guns.
Michigan,
Michigan, okay? All because they couldn't get a doggone haircut, or they didn't want to wear a mask or sit their behinds down at home until this coronavirus issue passed.
Yeah.
They feel so privileged that that's causing such a discomfort to their lifestyle that you're going to show up on a Capitol with guns, but yet they have the freedom to do it.
And
but
they're not afraid to do it.
They're not afraid to do it. I can't go stand on the Capitol, even if I got a license to carry with a gun. I'm going to more than likely 9 times out of 10 be shot dead. I'm not coming home to my family.
That's 100% true.
Yeah. I was talking to, because I was in Michigan. I was in Michigan visiting my girlfriend, and we were watching that. And first of all, it did not get the national news coverage. Like, I was like, what? You know, why? How come not everybody? I knew it. Like, Rod, you're like, what state was that? You know, right? Because if it was, I'm sorry to say, if it was an ethnic group that had stormed the Capitol somewhere, trust me, we would know what Capitol it was. It would be all right. And then go back and pull and Google it, and you see white militiamen with guns drawn in the Capitol, stopping the state assembly from voting. Yes. Now, I don't think it was a terrible choice for the governor, who's a very good governor, to say, hey, you know what, like, we either eradicate them and everybody gets shot up and it's a bad day, or we just kind of let them get done with their deal and go home. But the point is, you would not be able to do that. Period.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it truly is a double standard. And I think really at the end of the day, it's just, we have to recognize and see the elephant in the room for what it is and address it. We cannot continue to go on and allow these things to progress. And it just comes back down again to leadership. We have piss poor leadership in this country. America is a country that has to atone for her sins. All right. You know, the history that's being taught, the politics that's being, the rhetoric that's going around in our society, all of this stuff needs to just be wiped out, and, that's not going to happen overnight. I'm a realist, but I do believe we can start now with taking the approach to begin eradicating these things, state by state, however you want to put it, policy by policy. But it's just going to take a united front and a lot of money. And, you got billionaires sitting around that have made a lot of money profiting off of people that look like me.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
You got generations of families that are sitting on billions of dollars that have profited off of people that look like me, and Latinos that have helped build this country. And for us to walk around and think that this society is going to go on the way that it is, and that our kids and our grandkids are going to live in this society and things are going to be better, you're kidding yourself. And for me, I can only speak for myself personally as a man. I will not stand around and not do anything and think that the world's going to be a better place for my daughters, because my daughters are dark-skinned like me. Even though my wife is white, they have dark skin like me. And guess what? If we don't do anything to change the way the people of color are being treated, the world's going to judge them the way the perception has been created, that Black people are to be feared, that Black people are criminals, they're not just, they're not worthy. And let's just be real. That's how we are viewed. And that's how people of color are viewed. Until we work to change that narrative of perception, nothing is going to change in this society, and things are going to get worse. You can bank on that. It's not going to get better.
Yeah. Rod, thanks, man. Thanks for being on today. We needed to talk about this, so I appreciate you jumping on and giving us exactly what I think is right on, first of all. So thank you for that. Yeah. Paul, thanks for thinking to shift it to this, man. I think it's
AJ, see if you can share your screen. Maybe we can end with a hopeful. Oh, he can't share his screen. Who's the host?
You are.
Oh, well, there you go.
We're gonna talk some marketing.
um, I want to. Oh, it says Tristan is. Tristan, I'm going to send you this thing right now. I'm committed to getting this photo to you, and he says you can share it because it's a cool vision. Oh, Tristan left us now. Now who's the host?
He's left, or he's still there?
No, I think he either got bumped off or he runs a tight schedule.
Okay.
AJ, are you host now? Or do I still have to share the thing?
Garrett Malaysia tall parties.
I'm gonna give it one try, and if I can't do it, oh, can I share it or no? No, I can't share it either. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna tell you what it is. I'm gonna put it up on I'll put it up on my Facebook. I'll put it up on my Instagram. As I was driving around, for the first time, not yesterday, the day before, because I saw a lot of it yesterday. For the first time, day before yesterday, I saw the National Guard troops, out in force. They were 3rd Street Promenade. It's weird, it's weird to see that. I think it's good to see it, but it's weird. The other thing that I saw was lots of people with brooms, just regular people that live in Santa Monica that care, that support this. They're supporting the message of the protesters, and they're supporting the plight of the business owners that get caught in the middle of this thing. And there was National Guardsmen like fully armed to the teeth with the fatigues and everything, and then just these people with brooms. And it was a message of hope, in addition to what we usually see, so it was a mixed message. It was one where we're in a serious situation, and at the same time, here's a hopeful way. And I have to say this, I'm not for the violence. I'm watching closely and seeing some things happen to people that are, in one of our territories is West Hollywood. I have a realtor that lives a block away from a liquor store, family-owned, Korean family-owned liquor store. And 15 years ago, somebody went in and held up that liquor store and shot and killed the dad. It was a dad and a mom and all the kids away. Some immigrants come in and they get a shop and they build their whole life around it, family life, and the kids go into college just the way that American dream is. And that was 15 years ago. He was shot and killed in there. And that liquor store burned to the ground, and it's just like, I know that the people who are raising attention to this issue, which must be talked about, are not in favor of that. And I watch, it's almost funny, because I watched J.R. Smith, right? Did you see that? Right? J.R. Smith's out protesting, NBA player.
Yeah.
What's that?
He got into it with another person.
Yeah, and he physically stopped somebody, and he's funny, he's just tells it like it is. And he said, hey, this is not what this message is. I was out because I was protesting. I saw some kid vandalizing a car that he knows nothing about. He doesn't know that car, who that car belongs to, or what the message is. And J.R. Smith gave him some street justice in the moment, and was very candid about it, and it's like, to see that from both sides is very helpful. To see non-minority folks out there with the broom and the signs and supporting alongside everybody is important, and that is leadership that we can do. To see people of color out there saying, hey, wait a minute, this is not what this is about. This violence is not what this is about. That's leadership. That's the leadership that brings us together. And then, you know, letting people burn stuff out in front of the White House so you can get a photo op. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm confident. You know, the climate that we're in. I mean, we haven't seen anything like it, in my opinion. I know there's been a lot of different protests, but I think that the difference now is that we have social media. We can expose a lot of things and bring them to light. You know, we have the ability now where I think we're getting people that are in high positions that are waking up and saying they're also sick of this because they've seen a lot and they have kids that are living in this world, and I think they all want this world to be a better place. So I think we just have to hold true and maintain unity and stay on a unified front. I think we also have to communicate and really come up with viable solutions that, you know, we can start baby steps and scale our way up with them. You know what I mean? And just stay committed to that process. And I think as long as we stay focused in that manner and we stay unified and we don't allow any division to come into, you know, the focus that's at hand, and we identify and we bring to light things that are trying to interrupt or disrupt our mission, then, you know, we can be successful at eradicating these laws, these policies, and ensuring that the next generation doesn't have to grow up experiencing what we as minorities have had to experience, and also white people and other races. They're affected by this. They're impacted by this as well. So we just want the world to be a better place going forward, and I think we all have the ability to do that. Keep in mind, these individuals that are in position of leadership, we pay them. You know, they earn a living based upon the dollars that we go and we work hard to earn. So, you know, it's just about accountability and really caring about that accountability. And we have to hold these individuals accountable, regardless of who they are. And that's important. So I think as long as we stay on a unified front, we have a great chance of turning things around and making this world a better place.
Yeah. It says on, it used to, I don't know if they still have it on all the police cars. It says to protect and serve.
Yeah.
And there's nothing they were doing to protect and serve.
No.
So holding them accountable to that is great. Rod, I promise we will, I appreciate you saying like, hey, let's talk about marketing too. We will redo.
Well, I know people came on the call, and I appreciate all of you guys that stayed patient. Hopefully that obviously stayed on this call, and obviously that means a lot. That says that this does really matter and that it's important. I saw we had over 131 people on, so all 131 of you, I appreciate you guys taking the time to even just listen. That means a lot, because I think that's where this all starts, is whatever side you're on. And when I say that, I mean side. We all been affected differently from either side, whether it's black, white, yellow, brown. We all have been affected differently, but yet we're experiencing the same things if you really step back and think about it. So I appreciate all of you taking the time to listen. And I think, going forward when I speak on behalf of the People's Alliance for Justice, we're open to anyone that wants to provide support. Reverend Shane and I can make ourselves available for phone calls or emails. And, we just want to we want to do our part. And as I'm sure everyone else on this call does. So this is important, especially as a company and as a culture. I step back, and I've been at other companies, and, whether that's the Douglas Elmans, whether that's the Compasses, the Sotheby's, and there's no place like this. Leadership is head and shoulders above the leadership that are there. And if you take a step back and really look at what the KW front represents, it's diversity. I had to really take a strong look at that.
Oh, you went out on an important spot there, Rod.
I was saying that
for a second.
Can you hear me now? I was saying that one of the reasons why I chose the KW brands, because I took a step back after being at a lot of the top companies and seeing that there's a very lack of diversity, whether that's agents or in leadership, and the way people of color are treated in those companies was highly unacceptable to me. But I have a lot of friends that look like me that are a part of the Keller Williams brand, and that all of them have spoken and said great things. And I also looked at the leadership primarily here at this office, which led to me making my decision to come on board, because the people that I serve, a large majority of them look like me. And it's important to be a part of a culture that understands that, appreciates that, values that, and are looking for ways to make our experiences better, just in the real estate world, but then life as well, better, and it means something to them. So I thank all of you for coming on this call, and I hope to get to know every last one of you at some particular point in time. And if there's ever anything I can do or I can be a resource, please don't hesitate to reach out.
And let's put, we could put Rod's email in the chat box also, if that's okay with you, Rod.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
create, create this network right now. One of the other things we'll do is I've had a lot of people that, that couldn't make the call, texting me and emailing me. We have it recorded. We're going to post it. Rod, we'll make it available to you. You can post it. We're going to post it on our regional YouTube. We're gonna promote it. It's been a great conversation. I really appreciate it, and your willingness to do this. It can be a scary conversation to have, and so I appreciate everybody coming on and supporting and doing that. So
it's much needed.
Yeah, we'll talk marketing another time, I promise, because people want to hear that. For sure. And in the meantime, we'll also put together a list of resources that you and I can work on together in terms of People's Alliance for Justice and some of the other ways to do the things big and small.
Yes. All right. Okay. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for taking the time. And Tristan texted me and said, he got bumped off. It was right at the end of the call, but of course he's a great leader and, and Mexican-American guy. We love having him part of this programming. So absolutely. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you all. Appreciate it, Paul. See you guys soon.
Bye.